Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leeds Lobby with Lee and my son Dan. We are going to be talking a little bit about why we think Leeds United seem to have slowed down a little bit on the transfer. We had some frantic activity, and we had 3 signings come in within the first couple of weeks. And then it seems to have slowed down, and we want to discuss and have a chat about why we think that might be. But before we go any further, before we talk about what's happening with Raphinha, because that's obviously involved as well, we talk about all the transfers that we're looking at and people that we're linked with at the minute, why we don't seem to be pushing the button on them. Before we get to that point, there is just a reminder here. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means share all the stuff that we put on here. We do this as a passion because we love Leeds United, but we do want to build this channel, and that means we need the subscribers. So please, if you could do that, that would be absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So Dan, what is it that we're actually talking about then? Why is it slowed down? What do you think is actually happening?
So just off of the top of my head, we bought in 3 players. We bought in Rocco, we bought in Christensen, we bought in Aronson. But then we bought them in the space of 4 weeks, and now we've all of a sudden just gone quiet, and we're being linked with loads of top quality world class players, but we don't seem to be pulling the trigger on any of them, and we don't seem to be really putting offers in for anyone.
It seems, I mean, I saw somebody on Twitter who was asking the question, who was talking about they were talking about a player, they were talking about the way that Barcelona, when they sold Messi, had already got replacements for him before he went out, and that we as a club are in a dangerous situation because we seem to be waiting for players to move on before we bring players in. But again, what I think is we've bought 3 players in before we sold Calvin Phillips, before we actually made an agreement for Calvin Phillips. Incidentally, Calvin Phillips hasn't quite gone yet. He's still got a medical to have. He's still got to agree all the different signing, all that kind of stuff. But it does look like it's a done deal, Dan.
Yeah. His medical's actually expected tomorrow evening, so...
Yeah, so I don't think anybody else is in for him. I really think that there's it looks like there are going to be any other issues in and around that transfer. That seems to be like it's going to run ahead now without too much of difficulty. But what's happening with Raphinha in the Chelsea camp and the Arsenal camp? What seems to be happening there?
Well, it seems really like Arsenal have put a low offer in for it. Barcelona have basically agreed terms with the player, but then the bid's not been enough. Arsenal have put a low bid in, and then Chelsea have decided to capitalise on this and obviously they've put in their 65 million bid. Now that's hurried Barcelona and Arsenal along, and Arsenal are set to be having talks with Leeds in the coming days, and Barcelona having a last-ditch attempt to pull him.
This all, to me, looks like an agent trying to drum up interest in a player. That's what it looks like.
You can knock him as much as you want, but Deco is obviously a brilliant agent because he's got all of these clubs. He's stringing all of these clubs along.
I'm not 100% sure, you know. I think what's happened is I think that what we used to call tapping up, the most famous example of that in English football is where Ashley Cole was meeting with people from Chelsea while he was still an Arsenal player. And I think what we've had here is a situation where there's been tapping up. There's been an expectation that Leeds are going to go down. And I think that's prompted Barcelona and Deco in particular to be agreeing terms with a player where I'm not even sure Leeds United actually officially gave them permission to talk to Raphinha, bearing in mind we're still in the middle of a season at the time. And they've agreed terms with the player. But then, because Leeds haven't gone down, the difficulty is Raphinha seems to have set his heart on that move. And because Leeds haven't gone down, the valuation that they would have managed to get him for, which is 25-30 million, he's obviously, Leeds aren't going to let him go for that now. He's now going to be sort of 65-70 million. And they're in this situation where they've agreed terms with the player that really, really wants the move, but Leeds cannot accept the valuation. And I think that what's happened is I think Deco has touted him around various clubs. He's obviously got connections at Arsenal in Edu. And I think what's happened is Arsenal have, my suggestion in terms of what I think might have happened is I think Arsenal have actually asked to approach and speak to Raphinha. And I think what Deco is more or less, knowing that he's got somebody who's already agreed terms, who can't buy the player, has turned around to Arsenal and say, we need a statement of intent. You need to show that you're serious. So put an offer in. And Arsenal, of course, not knowing what wages Raphinha is going to be on, have come out with this stupid bid, and it's completely and totally backfired on them because effectively, if Arsenal put a bid in that's rejected, Chelsea come in with a bid, and they've come in with a bid that has been accepted. Yeah. And now if Arsenal want to progress, they now have to beat Chelsea's valuation of him. And what makes it tremendously difficult is that they can't offer Champions League football. Raphinha is not going to go to Arsenal while Chelsea are in for him, because Chelsea can give him Champions League football. And the terms that Chelsea want to agree with Raphinha, they're dragging their feet over it. Raphinha's dragging his feet over it, because now it looks like all of a sudden Barca have got some money in. And I don't think he's going to end up at Chelsea. And I don't think he's going to end up at Arsenal. Those tribute videos that Chelsea put and all the bragging that Arsenal have been doing, then all the bragging that Chelsea have been doing.
We've all seen this guy on Facebook who was saying that he's kept quiet until now, but his uncle works for Arsenal, and that Raphinha's actually as good as an Arsenal player now, and that he's going to be announced soon. And now he actually owes people so much money because he's put bets on him coming to Arsenal, because he was so sure that they're coming to Arsenal. He made up this whole lie about his uncle working for Arsenal.
This is Joe. I mean, just Joe was talking about that last night, and this guy. I mean, if he was a bookies, he'd be out of business because he'd have to pay out. But I don't think Raphinha is going to go to. I think the other thing that I don't think he's going to go to Chelsea. I don't think he's going to go to Arsenal. I think he will end up at Barcelona, and this has been one of the most interesting transfer sagas. That it's been as up and down as Pogba to Man U. And then back to Inter and
Juventus.
And Pogba's been backwards and forwards, and it's cost Man U an absolute arm and a leg twice on 2 occasions. I think for me, this seems to be rumbling on. What concerns me now is that Leeds have got a pre-season coming up, and we really need to be getting the replacements for Raphinha in. It seems to me, I mean, you were talking to me earlier on, you were saying that Leeds seem to be in advanced stages of negotiation with a number of clubs over a number of players. Who do we look like we're in for at the minute?
Everyone. Every man and his dog. Some of the names that come to mind: Cody Gakpo, CDK Charles de Catalere, we're obviously Callum Wendo, Nathan Collins is one, Adama Traore, Noah Lang, loads of players.
Do you have favourites in there? Do you have players that you'd like to see at the club? Do you have players that you perhaps wouldn't?
I personally would. The first signing that I would make is Callum Wendo, and people, I'm gonna get clipped up or slated for that, but Callum Wendo to me looks like a good a prospect, but as long as there's no buyback clause in there. Catalare is a class player, and I would also love to see him. I would probably see him more playing as an attacking midfielder or a left winger. There's a factor in there that he's only going to move to a place where his girlfriend can get dentist school. And there's only one dentist school in the country, and it's in Leeds University. So that gives us actually quite a bigger boost than you'd expect.
So what I'm interested in now then is we've got Barcelona with Raphinha, because we'd love to push the button on all of these players or some of these players, but I think what's holding us up now is that we're waiting for the money from Raphinha to come in. I'm not sure if Barcelona do come in with this super mega bid that's above what Chelsea are offering, whether the money's going to be up front. That might stymie our efforts in the transfer window. If Raphinha sees that Barcelona have come in with a bid, but we're not going to get the money for 3 or 4 years, Raphinha is not going to want to go to Chelsea. He's going to want to go to Barcelona. There is no doubt about it. So we are still in this situation where we've got one club that's agreed a fee with Leeds, but have no personal terms. I suspect that Raphinha is dragging his feet because he's hoping that Barcelona is going to come in over his shoulder.
Yeah,
we've got another club that's agreed personal terms but haven't stumped up the cash in terms of buying the club, and they're looking to sell players on. And we've got one club who look like they're a million miles away with egg on the face, who were really never ever really going to properly sign him. They were just used to attract a bit of bait.
Yeah,
and that's Arsenal.
I personally think that all of these signings we're linked with, all of these. I mean, we've been linked with Christian Eriksen. Like, let's be real, these are some top quality names, but I think the majority of them are dependent on how much we sell Raphinha for and how much we sell Phillips for at the end of the saga. So I think that's possibly one of the reasons why we are sort of holding out a bit.
I think for me, this has been the most exciting transfer window since we brought in Tony DeRigo and the Wallace brothers.
Are excited
for Leeds.
Yeah. Because obviously last season we had Messi move, Ronaldo move.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
We had Lukaku, we had some proper big names moving.
Yeah, but what it just goes to show, clubs like Real Madrid and clubs like Barcelona, where they're in a situation where they get rocked and they have financial issues, and clubs like Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle become rich within a 2 or 3 year period. And what we tend to find now is that this has a knock-on effect across the whole of football. We've got players that are linked with Leeds United that are probably hoping, I'd love to say that some of these players are going to come and they're going to stay with Leeds and they're going to be with Leeds in 10, 15 years' time, but till the end of their career. But the likelihood is they're coming looking for Leeds to be a staging pad, to come to bigger and brighter things. And that's okay. We're where we're at, because we can sell players on at a profit and then go and reinvest. And that's how a team like Leeds is going to progress. I mean, it's almost like when you buy a car on PCP and they say you're not buying the first 3 years of the car. What you're doing is you're buying the middle 3 years. It's the same with a player. What we're finding is that if we buy a player for £5-10 million and where we're able to shift him on in 2 or 3 years at £30-40 million and reinvest that, this is how you grow your finances and also grow your squad. So I think in balance, we will look back at this time. We'll see Raphinha going. We'll see Phillips going. If provided we bring players in the other direction, I think that everybody will see that it's been good business and that we've an improved squad.
We did do a video the other day on who we were bringing. But just quickly as well, Fabrizio Romano did come out earlier on and say, despite Leeds going quiet, we are actually working behind the scenes and we are actually still looking to bring in 3 more players at least. And Fabrizio Romano said that, so chances are it's pretty trustworthy.
Yeah, and for me, again, we're not in for a left back. I've got my suspicions. Dan, we as a partnership, we've got our suspicions that Harrison or James are going to be playing on that in that role. That in itself is exciting. I think Dan James is going to be like a new player next season. I think he's going to be played in a role that's not a false 9, that doesn't suit him. I think we're going to see Dan James playing very, very well, and I think we're going to see some interesting. It might even be that they play Harrison on the right hand side as an inverted winger who cuts in. Who knows?
As a replacement for Raphinha.
I can't see that Jesse Marsh is open to stay with Firpo as his first choice and with no decent experience backup. I can't see that.
I can see him starting the season at left back just to see if he has come to his own. But if he doesn't, I would probably. Obviously, we've got Chelsea a few games in. I would, if he's not informed by Chelsea, then I'd chuck Harrison at left back. Yeah.
So this is where we're at. So the thing is, in among all this, we've got a club that can't buy because they've not got Champions League football to attract. We've got and they come out with a stupid bid. They should have just put a decent bid in to begin with, and they might be over this because now the longer time ticks on, the quicker the more it's looking like Barcelona are going to have that money. Barcelona have not agreed terms with the club or include terms with the player. We've got Chelsea the other way round. They've agreed a fee with the club, but the player hasn't agreed terms yet. And in it, we've got Leeds, and they're watching that clock tick down. We would love to get these signings in.
If he's not sold by the Brisbane, what is it?
Is it the 10th?
Is it Brisbane?
Yeah, I think Brisbane, yeah.
I think that he won't go. I think Leeds have made Fabrizio Romano as well has said that Leeds have set a time frame, and if he isn't sold by then he's going to be on the plane to Australia.
But for me, looking at last pre-season, how bad it was, and how poorly
we always have a bad pre-season. About Leeds, we always have a bad pre-season.
We really wanted this business done this week.
4-0 to Man U in Australia comes to mind.
Any defeat to Man U was bad.
Yeah.
There is the time will come when we'll finish either Man U, and goodness me, talk about brag. One other thing we want to talk about, which is Cresswell, who looks like he's going out on loan. Would you send him out on loan?
Personally, it has its pros and cons, but I still don't think he's getting into the side, and I think he should. But I just think it's one of them things where you've got Koch, you've got Strauch, you've got Llorente, you've got Cooper. I think a loan to Millwall or Norwich would do him a world of good.
We are strong in that area, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think our problem wasn't what the fullbacks we had last year, because I think we were racked with injuries. We got more injuries in that position than you can possibly expect, and as such, we just didn't.
And there are apparently a host of Championship clubs also eyeing up a move for Jamie Shackleton.
Yeah.
So I think that would be. I'd rather loan him than sell him personally, Shackleton.
So our question is, where do you think Raphinha will end up?
Yeah.
And who do you think of the 4 or 5 players that we're linked with that we will end up bringing in?
Quickly, who do you think our next signing will be?
I think our next signing will be Tyler Adams.
Tyler Adams?
I do. I actually would prefer more Kamara. I think all this stuff that Salzburg are coming out with, and not Salzburg, Leipzig are coming out with, where we're talking about Tyler Adams not coming because this court case. I think it's a lot of rubbish personally.
Yeah.
I think it's been dealt with in the court. If we come in with a bid for Tyler Adams, they'll sell to us because they want to shift him on. He wants to come.
I personally think that our next just quickly also, I think our next signing personally will be Cody Gakpo. But just quickly, another thing, Alioski is now a free agent after his Saudi Arabian club Al Ahly got relegated from the Saudi Arabian League. He has terminated his contract. He is now a free agent.
Alioski is like your ex-girlfriend, where you can't live with them, but you can't live without them. Not for me. I'm a married man, so that's kind of not what I mean. What I mean is you'll know. People talk about you only knowing what you've got when it's gone. And Alioski, okay, you were holding out for 75 grand a week, but for me, I look at him and I realise what we had with him, and the amount of energy we had up and down that wing.
Yeah,
Firpo
Leeds needed him last season.
Firpo's not the player that Alioski is. Okay, he had defensive issues. Firpo's got defensive issues and going forward issues. Alioski might be cross-eyed, but Firpo's cross-eyed and he's got bad breath. Do you know what I mean? Kind of a thing. So, again, what do you think about Alioski? A lot of people say don't go back. That's also a reason.
I think going back is only a problem when you're in the position we were in January and summer, where we were bringing back in Dan James to try and go for him again. We were looking at bringing back Nketiah. We were looking at bringing back Corberan as a manager after we sacked Bielsa. We wanted Ronaldo Vieira back. I think that was our problem. We were too fixated on trying to reignite this spark.
Yeah. So the question is, where's Raphinha going to end? Where's he going to end up? Where do you think he should go? And who do you think we're going to bring in? The other question, one last question. We bring 3 more players in. We bring a Gakpo in. We bring somebody like a Tyler Adams in.
And Cataleri.
And Castellari. Have we got enough to finish top 10?
I think we've got enough to do better than last season already. And I think that if we do sign those players, my personal prediction that I've said for a while will be probably 12th to 8th. Somewhere in that region.
Okay. So thanks ever so much for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you've been here more than once, definitely hit that subscribe button and the notification button. We really, really appreciate your support. Let's get those subscribers up to 500 to 1,000. And we're hoping to get 1,000 subscribers before the beginning of the season. And we'd really appreciate your help with that.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Signing off.
Time.